I was strong. Everyone said so. I could lift more than men twice my age. I could run further, fight longer. My body was a weapon, perfectly formed, perfectly trained, perfectly useless. Because I couldn't wake up. Such a simple thing, such a ridiculous weakness. I was 19 years old, a warrior of the Nubian Guard, respected, admired, called to serve in the royal training grounds of Moreau. My future was bright, my potential unlimited. Everyone saw greatness in me, everyone except me, because I knew the truth. I knew what they didn't see. The mornings, the countless mornings when I woke late, when I rushed, when I arrived to training already behind, already tired, already defeated by something as simple as rising. The alarm would sound, the morning bell from the temple, clear, loud, impossible to miss. And I would hear it, actually hear it. My mind would wake, would recognize the sound, would know it was time. And then I would turn over, pull the blanket higher, tell myself, 5 more minutes, just 5 more minutes. I'm so tired. I trained hard yesterday. I deserve rest. 5 minutes won't matter. 5 minutes won't. And then it was 30 minutes, an hour. The sun was up. The morning training had started without me. And I was running, always running, trying to catch up, trying to arrive before anyone noticed, trying to pretend I was just on time. Not late, never late, just exactly on time, every single day. But they noticed. Of course they noticed. The other warriors who had been training for an hour already, who had stretched, meditated, practiced forms, prepared their minds and bodies for the day. They saw me arrive, saw me unprepared, saw me lying, not with words, but with my presence, with my rushed breath, with my unprepared state. No one said anything. That was worse somehow. The silence, the knowing looks, the way they would adjust to accommodate my lateness without acknowledging it, like I was a child who needed protection from his own weakness. I hated it, hated myself, hated that I couldn't do this one simple thing. Wake up. How hard is it? Just wake up. Everyone else could do it. Everyone else arrived ready, prepared. Why couldn't I? There was an elder warrior. His name was Dhaka, 63 years old, still training every morning, still stronger than men half his age, still sharp, still present, still disciplined. He watched me for weeks, maybe months, never said anything, just watched, with eyes that saw everything, that missed nothing, that understood more than words could express. One morning, I arrived particularly late. The sun was already high. Training had been going for 2 hours. I tried to slip in quietly, blend with the group, pretend I had been there all along. Dhaka stopped the entire session, called my name. Khalil. Everyone turned, looked at me. I felt my face burn with shame. Come here, he said quietly. I walked forward. My legs felt heavy. My heart pounded. I expected yelling, expected public humiliation, expected punishment. But he just looked at me, long and steady. Then he asked one question. What do you want? I blinked, confused. What? What do you want? He repeated. From your life, from your training, from yourself. What do you want? I want to be a great warrior, I said. The obvious answer, the expected answer. He nodded slowly. And when do you think that happens? Being great. When does that occur? When I master the skills. When I prove myself in battle. No, he interrupted gently. Being great doesn't happen in battle. Being great happens here, every morning, every single morning, when you decide who you are, when you choose what matters, when you either rise or turn over. That's when greatness happens, or doesn't happen. In that moment, that simple, quiet, invisible moment when no one is watching and nothing dramatic is occurring, that's when you become great, or when you become nothing. I felt his words hit me, not in my mind, in my chest, in some place deeper than thought, truer than logic. You're strong, he continued. Everyone sees it, but strength without discipline is just potential, unused potential, wasted potential. You could be great, or you could be another strong man who never became what he could have been because he couldn't master the simplest thing, the morning, the rising, the beginning. He turned away, started to walk back to the group, then stopped, looked back at me. Tomorrow, he said, I will come to your door before dawn. I will knock once, only once, and you will either rise or you will not. And that choice will tell me everything I need to know about who you will become. He walked away. The training continued, and I stood there, shaking, not from fear, from recognition, from knowing he was right, completely, devastatingly right. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay on my mat, staring at the darkness, thinking about the morning, about the knock, about the choice I would have to make for real, not in theory, not in intention, but in the actual moment when my body was tired and my bed was warm, and every fiber of my being screamed to stay still, to rest, to choose comfort over commitment. Could I do it? Could I actually rise? Not tomorrow. Tomorrow would be easy. Motivation was high. The shame was fresh. The elder's words were still ringing in my ears. Tomorrow I would rise. Of course I would. But what about the day after? And the day after that? What about day 7 when the initial motivation faded? Day 15 when my body was sore and tired and the comfort of sleep felt more important than some abstract concept of discipline? Day 25 when I would start to think, I've been doing this long enough. I've proven something. I can take one day off. Just one day. What harm could one day do? I knew myself, knew my patterns, knew that I was excellent at starting things and terrible at continuing them, knew that I was full of good intentions that evaporated the moment they became inconvenient. But something in Daka's words had pierced through. Greatness happens in the simple moment, the quiet moment, the invisible moment when you choose, not once, but over and over and over again, every single morning. That's when you become who you are, not in the dramatic battles, not in the moments of glory, but in the mundane, boring, repetitive choice to rise when everything in you wants to rest. I finally slept, fitfully, and then I heard it. A knock, one knock, clear, definite, final, and I rose. Not because I felt motivated, not because I felt strong, but because I had decided the night before, In that moment of recognition, I had decided that today I would be someone different. Today I would do the thing I couldn't do yesterday. I stumbled out into the darkness. Daka was waiting. He didn't smile, didn't congratulate me, just nodded once and started walking toward the river, and I followed into the darkness, into the cold, into the beginning of something I couldn't yet understand, but somehow knew would change everything. Day 1 was horrible. Every muscle in my body protested. My mind created 10,000 reasons why this was unnecessary, excessive, unhealthy even. "You need sleep," it whispered. "Rest is important. You can't perform if you're exhausted. This is going to hurt your training. This is going to make you weaker, not stronger." But Daka said nothing. He just ran, steady pace, not fast, not slow, just consistent, along the Nile. In the darkness before dawn, his breath even, his stride unchanging, like he was a machine, like this was the easiest thing in the world. For him, maybe it was. For me, it was agony. My lungs burned, my legs trembled, my mind screamed, but I kept going. One step, another, not because I wanted to, because I had started. And stopping felt like surrender, like going back to being the person I was yesterday, the person who couldn't wake up, the person who always chose comfort over commitment. We ran for an hour, maybe less. It felt like days. When we finally stopped, I collapsed, actually collapsed, hands on knees, gasping, tasting blood in my throat, my vision swimming. Daka stood beside me, breathing normally, waiting. After a few minutes, he spoke. "Good." "Good?" I gasped. "I almost died." "You didn't die," he said calmly. "You suffered. That's different. Suffering is the price of change. If it was easy, you would have done it already." He showed me stretches, forms, breathing exercises, a whole routine that he did every single morning, had been doing for 40 years. Every single morning, no matter what, no matter how tired, no matter how busy, no matter how inconvenient, every morning, the same ritual, the same commitment, the same choice. "Why?" I asked. "Why do this every day? What difference does it make?" He looked at me with those ancient eyes. "You think this is about physical training? Isn't it?" "No," he said simply. "This is about who you are. Every morning you wake up, you are making a choice. You are either the person who does what's easy or the person who does what's necessary. You are either someone who is controlled by their feelings or someone who controls their feelings. You are either a slave to comfort or a master of yourself. That choice, that moment when you open your eyes and decide whether to rise or turn over, that choice determines everything else about your day, about your life, about who you become." I didn't fully understand, not then, but I came back the next morning. Day 2, still dark, still cold, still every cell in my body screaming, "No!" Day 2 was worse. My muscles were sore from day 1. My body was exhausted. The novelty had worn off. There was no motivation, no fresh commitment, just the knock and the choice. I rose, slower this time, but I rose. We ran. I suffered. He breathed normally. We stretched. I trembled. He flowed. We meditated. I fidgeted. He sat like stone. And I hated every second, wanted to quit, wanted to say, this is stupid. This isn't working. This isn't helping. This is just torture. But I didn't quit. Because somewhere underneath the discomfort and the resistance and the voice that told me to stop, somewhere there was another voice, quieter, steadier, that said, keep going, just keep going. This is who you're becoming. This is how change happens, not through wanting it, through doing it, over and over and over again, even when, especially when, it's the last thing you want to do. Day 3, I didn't hear the knock. I was too deeply asleep. I woke to Dhaka standing inside my room, just standing there, silent, looking at me with disappointment I felt in my bones. I didn't hear, I started. You didn't want to hear, he interrupted. Your mind protected you from what it knew you didn't want to do. This will happen many times. You must learn to hear even when you don't want to hear. I stumbled out, ran, suffered, continued, but inside, I felt like a failure. I had already failed. Day 3. Couldn't even make it 3 days before failing. What was the point? I was never going to be able to do this. Never going to be able to maintain this. I should just quit now. Save everyone the disappointment. That morning after our practice, Dhaka spoke. You will fail many times. That's not the point. The point is, what do you do after failure? Do you use it as an excuse to quit? Or do you use it as information to improve? You didn't hear the knock. Fine. Tomorrow you'll sleep lighter. You'll prepare yourself before sleep to hear. You'll position your mat closer to the door. You'll adapt. That's discipline. Not never failing, but rising after every failure. Day 4 through 7 were a blur of exhaustion. My body adapted slowly, too slowly. I was tired all day, foggy, distracted. My regular training suffered. Other warriors noticed, asked if I was sick, asked what was wrong. I didn't tell them, didn't want to explain, didn't want to hear them say what I was already thinking, that this was stupid, that I was doing too much, that rest was more important, that discipline could wait until I was older, more established, more ready. But I kept going, kept waking, kept suffering, kept showing up, not because it was working, it didn't feel like it was working, but because I had committed, and somewhere in those words Dhaka had spoken, somewhere in the idea that greatness happens in the simple moment, there was something I couldn't let go of, something that felt true even when everything else felt terrible. Week 2, day 8 through 14, something started to shift. Tiny shift, barely noticeable. But my body woke easier. Not easy, but easier. The knock came, and I heard it, and I rose, still protesting, still uncomfortable, but faster, more automatically, like my body was starting to remember, starting to accept this as normal, as what we do, as who we are. The running became less agonizing, though the stretching felt good instead of painful. The meditation The meditation started to feel like something other than torture, started to feel like space, quiet space, before the world demanded anything, before anyone needed me to be anything, just me, present, breathing, existing. Dhaka watched this shift, said nothing, but I saw something in his eyes. Not pride, not approval, just recognition, like he was seeing something he had seen before, something he knew would happen if I just kept going, kept choosing, kept rising. Day 15, halfway to the 30 days he had mentioned when this started. Halfway. And I realized I was going to make it, not because it was easy, not because I wanted to, but because I had learned something simple but profound. I didn't have to want to do this. I didn't have to feel motivated. I didn't have to be inspired. I just had to do it. One day at a time, one morning at a time, one choice at a time. That's all discipline is. Not feeling like doing something and doing it anyway, over and over and over again until it becomes who you are. Day 20, something changed, something I didn't expect, couldn't have predicted, wouldn't have believed if someone had told me. I woke before the knock. My eyes opened, naturally, easily, in the darkness, and I knew it was time. I knew Dhaka was coming. I knew what I needed to do, and instead of dread, instead of resistance, I felt anticipation. Not excitement exactly, not joy, but something quieter, something deeper, a kind of readiness, like my body and mind had finally agreed, had finally stopped fighting, had finally accepted that this is what we do, this is who we are, this is home. I rose, dressed, walked outside before Dhaka arrived. He was approaching in the darkness, and when he saw me standing there, waiting, ready, he smiled. First time I had seen him smile in 3 weeks. Small smile, barely visible, but real. "You're awake," he said. "I'm awake," I confirmed. "You didn't hear me knock?" "You didn't knock yet." He nodded slowly. "Good, very good. You're beginning to understand. The ritual isn't about me waking you. It's about you becoming someone who wakes himself, someone who doesn't need external force, someone who has internalized the discipline, made it part of who you are." We ran, and for the first time, I enjoyed it. Not the suffering. There was still suffering, still effort, still discomfort. But underneath that, underneath the physical challenge, there was something else, something that felt like freedom. I was free from the part of myself that wanted to stay in bed, free from the voice that made excuses, free from the weakness that controlled me. I was proving to myself, to that part of me that didn't believe I could do this, that I could, that I was someone different than I thought I was. After our run, we sat by the river. The sun was rising, painting the Nile in colors that had no names, and Dhaka spoke, really spoke, not instructions, not corrections, but teaching. "You've reached the turning point," he said, "the place where discipline stops being a battle and becomes a refuge, where the morning ritual stops being something you have to do and becomes something you get to do, where it shifts from obligation to sanctuary." I listened, really listened, trying to understand. Most people think discipline is about punishment, he continued, about forcing yourself to do hard things, about suffering, about self-denial, and in the beginning, maybe that's true, maybe that's necessary, but if it stays that way, if it never transforms, then you'll eventually quit, because no one can sustain pure punishment forever. He looked at the water, at the sun, at the eternal flow of the river beside us. But discipline, true discipline, isn't punishment. It's the opposite. It's self-love. It's meeting yourself before the world makes demands. It's creating space for your own soul before giving yourself away to everyone else's needs. It's saying, I matter enough to show up for myself. I am worth this effort, this time, this commitment. I felt those words sink in, deeper than my mind, into some place that recognized truth when it heard it. When you wake before dawn, he said, no one is watching, no one is judging, no one is making demands. It's just you, meeting yourself, honoring yourself, saying through your actions, I choose me. I choose becoming the person I want to become. I choose growth over comfort. I choose strength over weakness, not because someone else requires it, because I require it of myself, for myself. We sat in silence. The sun rose higher. The world began to wake, and I felt different, like something fundamental had shifted inside me, like I had crossed some invisible threshold and couldn't go back even if I wanted to. Day 21 through 25 were easy. Not physically, the work was still work, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, they were easy because I wasn't fighting anymore, wasn't resisting, wasn't trying to motivate myself. I was just being someone who wakes before dawn, being someone who practices, being someone who has a ritual, a sacred ritual that belongs to me, that defines me, that makes me me. I started to understand what Dhaka meant. The morning ritual wasn't about becoming a better warrior. I mean, it was. My body was stronger, my mind was clearer, my focus was sharper. But that wasn't the point. The point was I was becoming someone I could trust, someone I could count on, someone who did what he said he would do, not just to others, to himself. For years I had been lying to myself, saying I wanted to be great, saying I was committed, saying tomorrow would be different, but never following through, never proving it, never making the choices that matched the words. And slowly, gradually, I had stopped trusting myself, stopped believing my own commitments, stopped thinking I was capable of real change. But now I had proof, undeniable proof. 25 mornings in a row, 25 times I had chosen discipline over comfort. 25 times I had made good on my commitment. 25 pieces of evidence that I was trustworthy to myself, by myself, for myself, and that changed everything. Not just my mornings, everything. Because once you prove to yourself that you can do one hard thing consistently, you start to believe you can do other hard things consistently. Once you show yourself that you're not controlled by your feelings, you start to think maybe you can control other aspects of your life. Once you demonstrate that you're capable of change, you start to see change everywhere as possible. Day 28. Dhaka didn't come. I woke in the darkness, alone, and I went anyway, ran the same path, did the same stretches, sat in the same meditation, without him, without external accountability, without anyone knowing whether I did it or not, because I wasn't doing it for him, wasn't doing it for other warriors, wasn't doing it for some future version of myself. I was doing it for now, for this moment, for the person I was becoming in this exact moment when I chose to rise instead of turn over, when I chose practice instead of sleep, when I chose myself. I finished my ritual, sat by the river, watched the sunrise alone, and I felt complete, whole, like I had found something I didn't know was missing, something that had always been there, but I had never accessed, never claimed, never made real through action. Power, not the power to control others, not the power of strength or skill or dominance, but the power of self-mastery, the power of being able to direct yourself, to choose yourself, to become yourself. That power, the only power that really matters, the only power that lasts, the only power that transforms. When I returned to my room, Dhaka was waiting, sitting outside my door. "You went alone," he said, not a question, a statement. "Yes." "Good," he said, standing. "Now the ritual is yours, not mine, not something I'm forcing you to do, but something you've chosen, something you've made part of your life, something that belongs to you, that defines you, that makes you more." He started to walk away, then stopped, looked back. "2 more days. You committed to 30. Finish what you started, and then you'll understand something most people never learn. That consistency creates transformation. That small actions repeated daily create massive results over time. That you don't build a life in dramatic moments. You build it in mundane repetition, in boring discipline, in showing up every single day, even when, especially when, no one is watching. 10 years have passed. 10 years since that first terrible morning when I stumbled out into darkness after Dhaka's knock. 10 years of waking before dawn. 10 years of the same ritual, the same commitment, the same choice, every single day. I am 29 years old now, a commander in the Royal Guard, respected, trusted, asked to train younger warriors, asked to lead important missions, given responsibilities I never imagined when I was 19 and couldn't even wake up on time. People look at me and think, he's naturally disciplined, he's naturally strong, he was born this way. They don't know, don't see, don't understand. There's no such thing as naturally disciplined. There's only disciplined by choice, disciplined by repetition, disciplined by 10,000 mornings when I chose to rise, when every part of me wanted to stay still. My body has transformed. Obviously, I'm stronger than I was at 19, faster, more skilled, but that's not the real transformation. Anyone can build muscle. Anyone can improve skill. That's just time and effort. The real transformation happened somewhere else, somewhere deeper, somewhere that doesn't show in muscles or speed, my mind. That's what transformed. That's what became different. That's what makes me, me. I don't make excuses anymore. That's the first thing I noticed, the first real change. When something needs to be done, I do it. Not later, not when I feel like it, not when it's convenient. Now, immediately. Because I learned waiting doesn't make it easier. Waiting just makes it waiting. The task doesn't change. Only your anxiety about it changes. Only your guilt about not doing it changes. So, just do it. Now. Get it over with. Move forward. I don't need motivation anymore. That's the second thing. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. It's high when things are exciting and disappears when things are boring. If you wait for motivation, you'll wait forever. I learned that discipline replaces motivation. Discipline is doing it whether you feel like it or not, whether you're inspired or not, whether anyone is watching or not. Just doing it. Because that's who you are. Because that's what you do. I trust myself now. That's the third thing, the biggest thing maybe. I say, I'm going to do something, and I do it. Not sometimes, not when it's easy, always. Because I've proven to myself 10,000 times that I follow through, that I keep commitments, that I'm trustworthy to myself, by myself, for myself. And once you trust yourself, once you really trust yourself, everything else becomes possible. Because you're not fighting yourself anymore. You're not divided. You're not saying one thing and doing another. You're integrated, whole. One person with one purpose, moving in one direction. The morning ritual is still there, still the same. I wake before dawn, always before dawn. I don't need an alarm anymore. Don't need anyone to knock. My body knows. Wakes naturally, in the darkness, ready. I run. Same path along the Nile, same distance, same steady pace. Not racing, not proving anything, just moving, breathing, being present in my body. I stretch. Same forms Dhaka taught me 10 years ago. Every muscle, every joint, slowly, carefully, honoring my body, preparing it for the day. I meditate, sitting by the river, watching the water flow, watching the sky lighten, watching my thoughts come and go without grabbing onto them, just being present, aware, awake. And then I'm ready for whatever the day brings, whatever challenges, whatever difficulties, whatever unexpected problems. I'm ready. Not because I know what's coming, but because I've already proven to myself that I can do hard things, that I can show up, that I can be counted on, that I am reliable, strong, disciplined. People ask me sometimes, how do you do it? How do you wake up so early every day? How do you maintain such discipline? What's your secret? And I tell them, there is no secret. There's only repetition, only showing up, only making the choice, over and over and over again, until it's not a choice anymore, until it's just who you are, what you do, how you exist. But they don't really hear me. They want some trick, some shortcut, some way to have discipline without doing the work of being disciplined. And there isn't one. There never was. There never will be. Discipline is built one morning at a time, one choice at a time, one moment of discomfort embraced instead of avoided. I teach young warriors now, like Dhaka taught me. I watch them struggle, watch them make excuses, watch them sleep late and arrive unprepared and convince themselves that tomorrow will be different. And I see myself 10 years ago, weak, undisciplined, full of potential, but empty of commitment. I don't force them, can't force them. Each person has to choose for themselves, has to decide whether they want to be someone who is controlled by their feelings or someone who controls their feelings, whether they want comfort or growth, whether they want to be the same person tomorrow that they are today or something more. Some of them choose growth, choose discipline, choose the hard path, and I work with them, wake them, run with them, teach them, not just techniques, not just forms, but philosophy, understanding, the truth about what creates real, lasting change. Others don't choose. They stay comfortable, stay undisciplined, stay potential, unrealized potential. It's sad to watch, but I can't do it for them. No one could do it for me. Dhaka could show me the path, but I had to walk it. No one else could walk it for me. There was a young warrior. His name was Oba, 16 years old, strong, talented, undisciplined, just like I was. He came to me and asked, "Will you teach me? Will you help me become disciplined?" And I asked him the same question Dhaka asked me. "What do you want?" "I want to be a great warrior," he said. The expected answer, the easy answer. "No," I said. "What do you want, really want, underneath the words, underneath the idea of greatness? What do you actually want?" He thought about it, really thought, and then he said something that surprised me, something honest, something real. "I want to trust myself. I want to be someone I can count on. I'm tired of lying to myself, tired of saying I'll do something and not doing it, tired of being unreliable, even to myself, especially to myself." I looked at him, and I saw understanding, not complete understanding, not perfect clarity, but the beginning, the recognition that discipline isn't about becoming a warrior. It's about becoming someone you can trust, someone you can count on, someone who does what they say they'll do, not just to others, to themselves. "Good," I said. "Then I'll teach you. Not techniques, not forms, not skills. I'll teach you how to show up, how to make a commitment and keep it, how to build trust with yourself one morning at a time, how to become someone who is reliable to yourself, by yourself, for yourself." He nodded, eager, excited, not knowing how hard it would be, how much he would suffer, how many mornings he would hate me, hate the ritual, hate himself for committing to this, but also not knowing how transformative it would be, how much he would change, how completely different he would become. "Tomorrow morning," I said, "before dawn, I'll come to your door. I'll knock once, only once, and you'll either rise or you won't. And that choice will tell me everything I need to know about who you will become. His eyes widened. Recognition. He had heard this before. From someone. Maybe from his own heart. Maybe from the universe whispering truth that everyone hears but few listen to. "I'll be ready," he said. "No," I corrected gently. "You won't be ready. You'll be tired, comfortable, warm, and every part of you will scream to stay in bed, to turn over, to choose comfort. But you'll rise anyway. Not because you're ready, because you've decided. That's discipline. Not feeling ready and doing it anyway." I am 46 years old now. My hair is graying at the temples. My body is still strong, but different. Not the explosive power of youth. Something steadier, more sustainable, more earned. I've been waking before dawn for 27 years. 27 years of the same ritual, the same commitment, the same choice. It's not a choice anymore. Not really. It's just what I do, who I am, how I exist, like breathing, like eating, like being alive. I don't think about whether to wake up. I just wake in the darkness, before the world stirs, before anyone needs anything from me, before the day makes demands. I wake, and I rise, and I practice, and I become again the person I am, the person I've been building for 27 years, one morning at a time. Dhaka died 5 years ago, peacefully, in his sleep. He was 86 years old, still waking before dawn until the very last week of his life, still practicing, still showing up, still being disciplined, even when his body was failing, even when it would have been reasonable to stop, to rest, to let go. He kept the ritual, because it wasn't about his body anymore. It was about his soul, about who he was, about meeting himself every morning in that sacred space before dawn. I was with him at the end, holding his hand, and he looked at me with eyes that had seen more mornings than most people can imagine. And he smiled. "You kept it," he said, his voice weak, barely a whisper. "I kept it," I confirmed. "Good," he breathed. "The ritual, it's not about the actions. You understand that now. It's about the person the actions create, the person you become by doing them every day, without fail, without excuses. That person, that's who you really are. Not your thoughts, not your intentions, not your feelings, your actions, repeated actions. That's the truth of you." He closed his eyes, opened them again. "One more thing to say. Teach them," he whispered. "Teach the young ones, not just the ritual, the meaning, the truth, that we become what we repeatedly do, that excellence isn't an act, it's a habit, that discipline is freedom, the freedom to become who you're meant to be, instead of staying who circumstances made you. Teach them that." Those were his last words. Teach them that. And I have, I do, I will, for as long as I'm alive, for as long as I have breath. I'll teach them what Dhaka taught me, what the dawn taught me, what 27 years of showing up taught me. The secret is, there is no secret. There's only showing up, only repetition, only the boring, mundane, unsexy work of doing the same thing over and over and over again until it's not work anymore, until it's just you, who you are, what you do, how you exist. I have 53 students now, young warriors, some disciplined, some not, some struggling, some thriving, some just beginning, some years into their practice. I treat them all the same, with respect, with honesty, with the truth about what creates real, lasting change. Every morning I wake, before all of them, before the world, and I practice, alone, in the darkness, not because anyone is watching, not because anyone requires it, but because this is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I honor myself, my life, my purpose. This is how I meet the sacred before the profane makes demands. This is how I remember I am not my circumstances. I am not my feelings. I am not my comfort or discomfort. I am my choices, my repeated choices, my disciplined choices. That's the truth of me. And then I wake my students one by one. I go to their doors, I knock once, only once, and they either rise or they don't. And I see immediately who they're becoming, not by their words, by their actions, by their choices, by whether they do what's hard when it would be easier to do what's comfortable. Some of them have been practicing for years now, some for months, some for only days, but all of them who continue, all of them who keep showing up. They're transforming, not dramatically, not overnight, but slowly, steadily, certainly. They're becoming people they can trust, people they can count on, people who do what they say they'll do, not just to others, to themselves. That's the power of morning rituals. Not that they make you wake up early, that's just a side effect. The real power is that they teach you. You are not controlled by your feelings. You are not a victim of your mood. You are not helpless before your own desires for comfort. You are capable, strong, sovereign. You can direct yourself, choose yourself, create yourself through action, through repetition, through discipline. Last week, a young warrior came to me. He had been practicing the morning ritual for 3 months, 90 days in a row, not one missed morning, not one excuse, not one failure, and he looked different. Not physically, internally, in his eyes, in his posture, in the way he carried himself. There was something solid about him, something reliable, something that hadn't been there 90 days ago. "Commander," he said, "I want to thank you." "For what?" I asked. "For teaching me to trust myself," he said, "for showing me that I can do hard things, that I can keep commitments, that I can change, really change, not just intend to change, not just want to change, actually change, through action, through showing up, through doing it, even when I don't want to." I looked at him and I saw myself, 27 years ago, making that same discovery, learning that same lesson, experiencing that same transformation. "You did that," I said. "Not me. I just knocked on your door. You chose to rise every morning for 90 mornings. That was you, your choice, your discipline, your transformation." He nodded. "But you showed me it was possible. You showed me that someone could do it. That made me believe I could do it too. And that's why I keep teaching, why I keep showing up, why I keep waking students who don't want to wake, why I keep holding space for their resistance and their excuses and their gradual, eventual transformation. Because we need witnesses, we need examples, we need proof that change is possible, that discipline is possible, that becoming someone different than we are today is possible. The morning ritual isn't magic. It's not complicated. It's not a secret technique known only to ancient masters. It's just showing up, repeatedly, consistently, without fail, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what's convenient, regardless of what's comfortable. Just showing up, doing the thing, keeping the commitment, making the choice, again and again and again, until it's not a choice anymore, until it's just who you are. That's the wisdom. That's the teaching. That's what the dawn taught me over 27 years of meeting it before the world woke. We are not what we intend to be. We are not what we claim to be. We are not what we wish to be. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence isn't an act, it's a habit. Discipline isn't a personality trait, it's a practice. Greatness isn't a destination, it's a direction. Chosen daily, chosen in the small moment, the quiet moment, the invisible moment when you either rise or turn over. I am 46 years old. I will wake before dawn tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, until the day I can't wake anymore, until my last breath, until the final morning when I close my eyes and don't open them. And even then, the ritual will remain, not in me, but in my students and their students and their students, on and on forever, as long as there are people who choose growth over comfort, discipline over ease, becoming over staying. The ritual will remain, because the ritual isn't about me. It was never about me. It's about the truth, the simple, boring, unsexy truth that consistent small actions create massive transformation over time. That we become what we repeatedly do. That discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. That morning rituals aren't about mornings. They're about meetings. Meeting yourself, honoring yourself, choosing yourself before anything else, before anyone else, before the world demands that you be someone else. Meeting you, the real you, the becoming you, the person you're creating through disciplined choice. Every single day, one morning at a time. The sun is rising now, like it has risen 27,000 times since I started this practice. Same sun, same river, same dawn, but different me, because I've met the dawn 27,000 times, and each time I became a little more of who I'm meant to be, a little less controlled by feelings, a little more in control of choices, a little less victim, a little more creator, a little less potential, a little more realized. One morning, one choice, one discipline at a time. That's the power. That's the wisdom. That's the teaching. Not dramatic, not flashy, not complicated, just true. Simple truth, repeated truth, lived truth. the truth that sets you free from being controlled and makes you free to create yourself, your life, your destiny through the boring, mundane, sacred act of waking before dawn and meeting yourself before the world makes its demands. The ritual remains forever in everyone who chooses it, in everyone who honors it, in everyone who learns. Discipline is love, the highest form of love, self-love, choosing who you become every single morning, when no one is watching, when nothing is forcing you, when only you and the dawn and the choice remain, rise. That's the teaching, that's the wisdom, that's the power. Just rise.